Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host Anthony Rivardo. Once at the fireside, always at the fireside, my friends. I hope you have a splendid Mother's Day on Sunday and a great week ahead of you. We had an awesome interview with Rodarius Williams on Saturday afternoon. I hope you guys checked in on that. That was an awesome interview with tons of great content and great quotes from Rodarius. Looking forward to the season. I'm really excited to see what he has to offer. Obviously, this video is brought to you by our sponsor, Manscaped. Make sure to use that discount code in the description, 20% off. It really helps the channel. Supporting us is a great way for us to get better content. Just really help us move along this process because we're trying to make this the best channel out there with unbelievable value for you guys. So it helps us a lot. If you can help us out in that way. So thank you so much for your support. As always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe below on YouTube and turn notifications on for Spotify and Apple, as always. But today's video, my friends, is 5 reasons the New York Giants offense is going to have a better 2021 season compared to 2022. I imagine everyone assumes this will be the case, but we want to break down a couple reasons as to why this is going to happen and the factors that will be playing a part. But before we dive into this, Anthony, my friend, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, enjoying a nice, quiet Mother's Day, and I think we can all agree that the number one reason that the Giants' offense will improve this year is because it just can't get any worse than it was last year, right? But, of course, they did make some improvements in the offseason. They did a lot of things in terms of personnel and coaching staff to try to, set themselves up for a better 2021 season on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm really excited to see how it all comes together because, like I said, the 2020 season, the offense was so bad. The defense was really good, but the offense just held us back. We could have been a playoff team if we had a better offense. If we had just even a competent offense, I think we would have slipped into the playoffs. So it's going to be curious to see how the Giants really do on offense this year and what kind of step they can make. Is it a big step? Is it a little step towards 2022? What's it going to be on offense? I think that's going to be really important, and I'm really excited because, like I said, Giants did a lot of things this offseason. A lot of those moves were really exciting on the offensive side of the ball, and I can't wait to see these guys hit the field and see if we can get a little bit of electricity out of this offense.
It can't get any worse, can it? What are we? We had 18 points per game last year. The Jets were at 14.5. We were 31st in the NFL in points per game and pass blocking in the offensive line, something that we're going to talk about in a little bit, hint, hint. And I will say this. I saw progress in certain categories. The running game looked okay, despite not having Saquon. Daniel Jones did reduce his fumbling and turnover problems as the season progressed, even when he was injured with that hamstring injury after he suffered against Cincinnati. So there are reasons to be excited, and I'll start out with the first one. A better receiving core. That's number one in the reasons the New York Giants are going to see a better offensive unit in 2021. Better receivers. Last year, we had Sterling Shepard as our number one, Darius Slayton, CJ Board, Dante Pettis, Golden Tate. Old man Golden Tate. Guy, was yelling and screaming that he wasn't getting enough reps as if he was going to be the reason we made the playoffs. But let's be serious now. We took a big step forward this season with our receivers and the talent that we added. Kenny Golladay is a bona fide WR1 in the NFL. That, right off the bat, just him alone would have been enough. Would have been enough to bring this offense up considerably. Number 2, you got Kadarius Toney in addition to Kenny Golladay, and Kyle Rudolph and John Ross. Tremendous talent turnover in one offseason. What the Giants did this offseason was unprecedented, really. When's the last time? I guess 2016, but that was really a win-now move, and we're building for the future. What the Giants did this offseason was, yes, it has a win-now feel to it, but they also set themselves up great with the future because of the draft capital they acquired via trading in the first round. They got themselves more draft capital for 2022. They signed really, really healthy contracts that are right in line with Daniel Jones' rookie deal and the expansion of the cap due to the TV deals. So everything, it felt right. It felt like the Giants took a step forward and actually, changed their philosophy and made some great progress instead of, putting themselves in a hole with 5-year contracts like they did with, even Snacks and Olivier Vernon and Janoris Jenkins. A lot of those didn't pan out. 5-year contracts, you're kind of on the hook for a while on those deals. A lot of them have a lot of dead money. If you trade those guys away, if you cut them, you're on the hook for a ton of cash. The Giants set up these 3-year contracts so they can move on if they wanted to after the second year. But this receiver core, head and shoulders better, Anthony. What are you thinking about Kenny Golladay? What are these different guys going to bring to this offense? And I'm really excited to hear your take on why this offense is going to be better.
Yeah, I love what the Giants did with the receiving core this offseason. They had talent, they just didn't have enough talent last season. They didn't have anyone who was they were missing two things. They were missing a guy who was separating down to down, just getting open from his route run. You could argue that Sterling Shepard was that guy. He is one of the better route runners in the NFL, and he was separating more than any of the other receivers, but he still wasn't separating vertically. He wasn't separating on deep routes. It was really just underneath that he was separating. Anything deep was contested for the most part, unless Evan Engram blew past somebody and just ran by them, or Darius Slayton was fast enough to blow by somebody, and Daniel Jones was able to get them in stride. That's the only time he was throwing to someone open deep. For the most part, Daniel Jones completed like all of his deep passes to contested guys. It was, jump balls. It was those 50-50 over-the-shoulder catches, the timing throws deep that Daniel Jones was really good at. He was really good at throwing guys open, which was a really impressive trait, which we're going to get into in just a little bit with Daniel Jones. But for the receiving core, now I think you got a guy who is dependable. You got a guy who doesn't drop passes with Kyle Rudolph underneath. You got him. You still got your intermediate separator with Sterling Shepard, and then you have your guy who can go vertical and make those 50-50 balls at an extremely high rate and separate more than any other receiver on the roster with Kenny Galladay. He's your true alpha number one X receiver that the Giants just didn't have. Like, we had a Z receiver in Darius Slayton, we had a Z/slot in Sterling Shepard, and we had a slot guy only in Golden Tate. We really needed that X guy. We got that X guy in Kenny Galladay. I always thought that Kenny Galladay, even way before the free agency period opened up back in October when the Giants were inquired to trade for him, I thought, man, he is the perfect guy to put in Jason Garrett's offense. If you think back to the days of Dez Bryant and that offense for Jason Garrett with Dallas, the way that they love to use that big X receiver, that big body, just make those 50-50 balls separate at the catch point, not necessarily on the routes. So I think Kenny Galladay was a perfect fit there. Then you throw in Kadarius Toney, and you really take this receiving core to the next level, because now you got your G receiver, your gadget guy off the bat, but he's so much more than that. He does so much more than just being a gadget player. He's going to evolve, and his route running is already pretty solid, and it's only going to get better with NFL coaching. When he goes out there, I've heard the comparison, and I see it too. He goes out there like he's playing one-on-one basketball. He's doing ankle crossover moves, right? That's what Kenny Galladay does, but he gets away with that because he's just so quick, so explosive, and once the ball is in his hands, no one can catch him, and that's the other thing that the Giants offense was missing last year. So they did not have a guy who can make plays after the catch. Now they do. So they added that in. They filled all of those needs. They filled that X receiver role. Now they've got a guy who can work primarily out of the slot with Kadarius Toney or Sterling Shepard. They still got a good Z receiver combo with Shepard and Slayton, but now they also have that after the catch guy, that they were really, really missing. Golden Tate was signed on kind of to be that guy, but really, I guess age just caught up with him. He was not breaking tackles. He was not making plays after the catch. Kadarius Toney is the best after-the-catch receiver in the 2021 NFL draft class, and the Giants were lucky enough to get him at 20 overall. I think that was a home run selection. I think it will be long-term a really, really good selection for them. And really, he added a whole nother dynamic level to the Giants receiving core. And like I said, they had specific defined needs in that receiving core. They filled all of them this offseason. I think it's going to be huge for Daniel Jones, just huge for the offense in general.
Yeah, building off of that Kadarius Toney point you just made, he's one of the best, yards after catch, really just open field runners in this draft class at the wide receiver position. He made 35% of tacklers miss in 2020. That was just an insane statistic. 35% missed tackle rate for him. If you look at NFL linebackers, like Blake Martinez, some great ones, they kind of hover in the 5 to 10% range. Kadarius Toney makes 35% of tacklers miss. Keep that in mind when you're looking at a player like that. He is so freaking shifty, man. The guy's like a jackrabbit. He bounces around like the Energizer Bunny. And I'll tell you what, it gets me excited because the Giants now have a player who can burst open a game, can make just flashy plays like that, but also efficiently. He can do it at a high level and consistently. And Rodarius Williams told us in the interview that they worked together, and he saw him practice at the Senior Bowl, and the guy's different. He's a different player. He does it not only in game, but he does it in practice too. It's every single day this kid is doing stuff. Not every now and then, it's every day. And that's what made OBJ so special. Every single practice, he was making one-handed catches, doing crazy stuff. When you're doing it at practice every day, it translates to the field. That's kind of the idea behind when you have a playmaker like that. So I'm really excited to see Kadarius Toney in live action. Football cannot come fast enough, honestly. I'm so hyped for this season. But let's move on to number 2, my friend. Return of Saquon Barkley. This is the big one. This is a big factor for the Giants and Daniel Jones because Saquon Barkley is a guy that commands so much attention out of the backfield. Defenses are forced to utilize linebackers and safeties at the second level to monitor what is going on with Saquon at all times. Is he going out for a pass? Is he running up the gut? Is he running outside on a sweep? We have to allocate attention to him. You have to have spies on Saquon at all times. And that's what we saw with the Giants against good running teams. They had Logan Ryan and Blake Martinez and even their edge defenders spying on running backs and Jabril Peppers because they have no choice. If you let those guys go, if you don't keep an eye on them, they will run you rampant. They will crush you. Saquon does that to a team. So Saquon's impact as an attention hoarder doesn't only help himself, but it helps the players around him. It helps Daniel Jones in the passing game. It helps his receivers get open because there's not as many guys in the defensive backfield in the secondary to help in zone coverage or man coverage, whatever it might be. You have to have a guy on Saquon at all times. Wayne Gallman, no one was scared of him out of the backfield. No one was scared of him as a receiver. They were scared of him maybe up the gut. They ran inside zone pretty much power all season long with Wayne Gallman. No one was scared of him. They just basically were like, okay, rally to the ball, take him down. Saquon, you always got to have eyes on him, always. That attention, it means a lot. You'd be surprised. So now that you have more receivers who can separate and make big plays and security blankets for Daniel Jones, Saquon's going to be even more important. So as for his running, I think they'll ease him into the season. He'll get reps week 1, but I think it'll go from like 30% reps to 50 to 70 to 100, and you'll see it consistently go up and up and up as the first few weeks commence, because I think they want to ease him back into shape, get that confidence back in his knee, because I know a lot of guys coming off serious injuries like that, they might be physically back to normal, but they're mentally not back to normal because they're scared to, cut on that leg, put weight on that leg. So I think they'll ease him back into things. That'll be a good thing for Saquon to experience, and I think they have a guy in Devontae Booker who can help supplement that loss in efficiency and production immediately, which is why they probably gave him a little bit more money than you'd think or than you'd want them to. So that's kind of what I feel about Saquon, but I do like him coming back. I just need to see more in pass protection from Saquon. That's his biggest weakness. It keeps showing up on tape. I think that's the one thing that he's got to work on, and then, you'll have your bona fide bell cow running back, but he's got to get better in pass pro.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He has to improve in pass pro. But in terms of Saquon Barkley, generally, one of the things that I think has always held him back is the Giants have just asked him to do way too much. They've asked him to carry too much weight on his shoulders. You mentioned his playmaking ability in the receiving game. Yeah, that's really valuable, and he is really good at that, but there were games where he had like 12 receptions or 12 targets or something. I'm like, that's a lot for a running back. That's a lot for any running back, even Christian McCaffrey, even an Alvin Kamara. You really don't want to throw to your running back nearly 15 times per game. That's not ideal, and I think now the Giants are going to be able to take a little bit of that strain off his shoulders with a guy like Kadarius Toney. All of these moves that the Giants made work hand in hand together. You got Saquon returning, but you don't have to rely on Saquon to be your underneath run after the catch guy, right? That's what he was to the Giants. He was their catch the ball underneath, maybe behind the line of scrimmage or just around the line of scrimmage, and then go. No, Kadarius Toney is that now, and I think he actually will end up taking probably 70% of Saquon Barkley's receiving targets away. But then you get the smaller dosage of receiving for Saquon Barkley, and it's still effective. You just got all these playmakers out there in the receiving game. You got playmaker after playmaker who can catch the ball now and make plays after the catch. You got two of those guys with Saquon and Kadarius. So I think that's really, really good for Saquon just to have, lesser workload, but still have the autonomy to do a lot in his role. Right now, he's more of just that runner that the Giants need him to be. When you talk about breaking tackles, you talk about Kadarius Toney, and then you got to also talk about Saquon Barkley, who's one of the best tackle breakers in the NFL. He broke 55 tackles or something his rookie season. It was a ridiculous number. Don't remember what it was, but come on, we all remember that season. It was a beauty to watch. No one could catch the guy. No one could tackle him.
I missed that version. A lot of fun.
I miss that version of Saquon, but honestly, it's not his fault that version of Saquon hasn't been here. He's just been held back by things, whether it was poor play calling, poor blocking, and
that Pittsburgh
injuries.
Game. Oh Lord, that offensive line played poorly. It was Bud Dupree was in the backfield in 3 seconds. Yeah, not even like a millisecond. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That was a tough blocking performance from the offensive line, but that was also a game I remember specifically. The Giants ran the ball twice to the left side of the line, and all of the other rushes were to the right side of the line. That's a play calling thing.
TJ Watt, you can't get away from him.
Right, I've always said Saquon is just held back by other people, and I think he's really talented. The one thing that he holds himself back with is the pass protection, which I assume he's going to improve because his work ethic and he's strong enough to do it. He just, I guess, doesn't know how, but he will improve on that. But Saquon's just going to add so much to the offense, in terms of having a consistent down-the-down running back running game, having a guy who can actually be the runner on all three downs, first and second down, make some good runs. third down, if they're in a receiving situation, he could still go out there. Wayne Gallman, you really weren't trusting on third down. That's why Dion Lewis kept sneaking his way into the game, right? We don't really want to see a guy like Dion Lewis on the field that often, especially not on every third down. Now you got Saquon Barkley. He's your every down back, and he's your tackle breaker, and he's just your machine, your workhorse in the backfield. As long as he could stay healthy, I think it's going to be huge for the Giants offense, huge for Daniel Jones, just knowing he has that guy to dump it off to and go make a play, having that guy that they can use out of the backfield in the receiving game, and having that guy when maybe Daniel Jones is struggling, just hand it off to Saquon every single play. He will get some yardage, he will break some tackles, he will make plays. He still is one of the most dynamic and explosive running backs in the NFL. He's just been dealing with some injuries. If he stays healthy this year, he could have a huge breakout, especially when you consider the fact that the Giants are not going to be facing loaded boxes anymore. Like I said, they were putting too much on Saquon because he was their only playmaker. He was their only superstar on offense. So defenses were just loading the box against him. Now, with all these playmakers that the Giants have on the outside, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, they can't load the box like that anymore, especially with Toney, all that speed that he has going vertical. Can't load the box. You got to respect the passing game as well now. So Saquon's going to see less loaded boxes, therefore better running lanes, better rushing opportunities, and just a better offense in general when you combine him plus those receivers. Should be a good offense this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they load the box, just give me speed outs from Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, give me the seam routes, give me the outside go routes with Kenny Galladay and John Ross and Darius Slayton. We will destroy them. If they want to load the box, well, we have the personnel to take advantage. But I love that point that you made, that yes, Saquon brings so much to this team. He, is capable of blowing up a game at any moment and carrying an offense. But don't underestimate the value of having other amazing playmakers around him to make him even better. That's a factor that I think we look past sometimes, because Saquon was asked to do a lot. That first season, 2,000 all-purpose yards with OBJ, and OBJ was taking some of the slack off of him, and we saw what he did with a little bit of help, a little bit of continuity, a little bit of partnership with another star player. You give Kenny Galladay, you give Kadarius Toney, and reminder, the offensive line in 2018 was crap too. They were awful, and our offense wasn't so bad that we were like, okay, we can't score points. We scored some points with Pat Shurmur. I mean, just look what Daniel Jones did in his first year. The guy had 24 touchdowns and went to 11 last year, so we know how much better it could be. And they were still below average in 2019. So I'm excited to see, what happens moving forward with Saquon, and hopefully he returns back to full health. But let's move on to number 3, which is Daniel Jones' progress. Now, that was the big narrative last year. He didn't see the progress we necessarily needed him to. But I'll tell you what, there was a couple of games, especially right before that hamstring injury against Cincinnati, where he was looking really sharp. It was against, I think, Washington and Philadelphia. He didn't have many touchdown passes, but he had a lot of completions. He had a lot of yards. He had some rushing yards. He didn't have any turnovers. And he was really stringing together a couple of really great performances where even if he did turn the ball over, he bounced back quickly and didn't make it a habit. He kind of broke the habit, and then he had the hamstring injury, and the offensive line fell apart because his mobility was off. The timing was off. He couldn't drop back as fast and quick, and everything kind of went to the shitter. But Daniel Jones's progress, I did see a lot of positive growth that I think we need to be talking about, because he's kind of a consistency-based quarterback. The more consistent he is, the better he gets, and that injury really threw a wrench in all of that, and that was with a bad offense to begin with. With more weapons, with more protection, hopefully this offensive line, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I think Daniel Jones is on the right path towards taking a step forward. They gave him all the support he could possibly need in terms of weaponry, and I think his downfield accuracy is going to be essential moving forward. They're really establishing more of a downfield offense with some of these hires, like Russ Callaway. We'll talk about him too, and how his offense with Samford was one of the best in the SEC a couple years ago. The guy is an air raid, air Coryell kind of choreographer when it comes to developing route concepts and more. And I think that's going to be such a big help to Jason Garrett, and trying to figure out what plays, are the most efficient. What plays can they run to really expose and exploit some of the talent they have on the roster right now. They need to maximize all of this talent because they have so much of it. So I'm excited to see what Daniel Jones does in terms of progression. Anthony, what do you think of Daniel Jones? What do you think he's going to really be able to accomplish this next year? Do you have high expectations for him, like Josh Allen like?
Not Josh Allen like. Josh Allen is absolutely an outlier. We've never really seen a quarterback go from year 2 to year 3 like that. That's really high expectations for Daniel Jones. Josh Allen was an MVP candidate. I don't expect Daniel Jones to be an MVP candidate this year, but the Giants did improve the situation around Daniel Jones, so I expect Daniel Jones to improve along with the situation. I thought Daniel Jones played really well last year. Maybe I'm in the minority, maybe it's a silent majority, I don't know. I think that over the stretch of the season, we saw Daniel Jones just improve week to week. Beginning of the season, his pocket presence was still trash. It was terrible. End of the season, we saw him tucking the ball a lot more often, fumbling a lot less, and getting out of the pocket in scary situations and navigating it just a lot better. His pocket presence just really improved towards the end of last season. His turnovers, you still fumble the ball a good bit, but towards the second half of the year, not as much. But I don't really think that his interceptions were a big problem last year. Few of them came off of dropped passes, tipped passes, and for the most part, I think that he kept the ball pretty clean in the passing game. And his deep throwing, that's the number one thing you got to look at with Daniel Jones. Last season, he was legitimately, arguably, the best deep ball thrower in the NFL. If not, he was undoubtedly the top 5 in the league, throwing the ball 20 plus yards downfield. He was pinpoint accurate on all of those back shoulder fades, all of those deep seam routes, all of those deep wheel routes that he was throwing. He was really accurate on all of them. Daniel Jones really impressed me in that regard, and those are the toughest throws to make. And now the number one thing with Daniel Jones, though, is he played really well from a clean pocket. When he was under pressure, he struggled really badly, which is going to relate to the next thing we're going to get into with the offensive line. But under pressure, his PFF grade, 48.2. Kept clean, 91.2. One of the best in the NFL. He was really, really good when he had a clean pocket. He did suffer 29 drops this season. There was 29 drops from the receivers out there. Obviously, the Giants, they got Kyle Rudolph, they got Kadarius Toney, guys with really good hands that will hopefully help out a lot with the drop problems.
29 drops?
29 drops in 2020, yep.
I know worse rappers that are dropping their mixtapes more often than that. Unbelievable. That's my joke of the day.
Yep, dad joke of the day. Kept clean. He had 8 touchdowns versus 3 while under pressure. Daniel Jones really just in general, like I said, from a clean pocket, and this is what they always say, a quarterback's play from a clean pocket is far more indicative of future success. If they can build off of playing from a clean pocket, if you can keep them clean more often, if Daniel Jones is in a clean pocket more often, he's a much better quarterback. I know that's always a thing, right? Can you keep him clean? Why can't he play well under pressure? Well, he's still a young quarterback. Learning how to play under pressure is a really difficult thing for young quarterbacks. Let's hope to see him make a leap here while playing under pressure in this next season. But keep him clean as often as possible, and I think that Daniel Jones turns into a pretty damn good quarterback because his stats and everything, they do back it up when he plays in a clean pocket. And even when you watch a film and you see him, he does make the throws. He does read the field better than he had in the past. He was kind of a one-read quarterback at the beginning of the season. Second part of the season, you saw him going through his progressions better. You saw him easing into games more and really reading the field and making good throws. So I'm a believer in Daniel Jones. I think that he played really well last year, and he just was held back by a lot of other factors, and I think now the Giants have put things in front of him where they can say, you have all the tools that you need, you have all the toys to go play with, now go play with them, build this magical fantasy land that you want to create, have fun, and dominate, because you really have everything you need to dominate. So I hope to see Daniel Jones take a huge step in year 3, but I'm not going to put those high expectations and say he's going to have a Josh Allen breakout year, but I do think he has a year where he established himself as a franchise quarterback this year.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of led me to think about a few things in terms of that injury that he did pick up against Cincinnati, that bad hamstring injury that even Joe Judge said any other player would have ended up on IR missing the rest of the season. The guy toughed it out. That says something to me. He wanted to be there for his teammates even though he had no support. He was trying to carry that offense on his own. It meant a lot to me actually when I heard that. But one step further, I think that injury actually forced him to stay in the pocket and make his reads. Instead of rolling out, taking off running, I think it actually maybe forced him to develop a little bit in that category of sitting in the pocket, going through his reads, trying to get through them even faster because he's not trying to take hits with that hamstring injury, So that was an interesting thought that did pop into my mind. But let's talk about the offensive line, a unit that we have talked about extensively over the past couple weeks and that the Giants obviously ignored in the 2021 NFL Draft. This is a unit that I think will take a step forward. Whether it's minor or major, they're going to move forward. We've talked about this, and the major factors really are no preseason last year. Now they have a preseason. No in-person training really last year. Now they have in-person training. Andrew Thomas was dealing with injury. Also, a ton of rookies and first-year players at positions. We had rookies at left tackle. We had a rookie at left guard for half the year, and Shane Lemieux. We had basically a rookie in Nick Gates who had never played center before. We had a rookie at right tackle in Matt Parrott, and then splitting time with Cam Fleming and Kevin Zeitler. This team was full of young rookies and young guys who just didn't understand how to play certain positions. Nick Gates came on at the end of the year. Andrew Thomas came on at the end of the year. Matt Parrott showed really great abilities in the run game. I think that we saw a lot of progress in the second half of the season that justifies us being optimistic that they will take a step forward, not backward. And also the fact that they will have more attention allocated toward their other weapons like Saquon, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney. You can't send 6-7 blitzers at a time. Otherwise, you're going to get torched in man coverage with those guys. So I think that's another factor to throw in there as well. But I do think that this offense will take a step forward based on those reasons. I think that I'm confident that it at least will be minor and it'll get better and better and better as the season progresses. And you want your team to peak at the end of the year. That's always the goal. You want injuries to be low. You want your team to peak at the end of the year and then make that move in the postseason. So I think that's kind of what I would like to see from the Giants. Progress, get better, stay healthy. All easier said than done, of course. But Anthony, what are you thinking about this offensive line? Do you think that they are in a stage that they can take a step forward and we can feel good about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's put up or shut up for the offensive line. They have to improve this year. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of changes the following offseason, right? The Giants didn't really find the opportunities or find the value to draft anybody or even sign anybody on the offensive line this offseason. But I think that's okay because you do have some young guys who are really talented. You have a new offensive line coach, Robert Sale, who I think is going to help them tremendously. But you do got Andrew Thomas entering his second season. I thought he did a lot of good things in year one that he can build on and become a really good left tackle. So you got Andrew Thomas. Hopefully he takes a big step in year two. And then opposite of him, right tackle, you've got Matt Parrott, a guy who saw limited playing time, but played really well when he was on the field at left tackle and at right tackle. And he's a guy that I'm really high on. You all know that. I love Matt Parrott, and I think that he's going to be a really good player for the Giants. I think this is his year. He gets his starting opportunity and establishes himself as a starting offensive lineman. I think that's what Matt Parrott does at right tackle this year. And then just thinking about both of those tackles and the struggles that they had this past season, not that Matt Parrott really had too much opportunity to struggle, but he did play a lot better in the first half of the year than he did in the second half of the year. After he got COVID, we saw something happen where he just wasn't playing as well. Well, we also learned at the end of the season that Matt Parrott and Andrew Thomas were both dealing with ankle injuries. Andrew Thomas went ahead and had surgery at the end of the season. I don't know if Matt Parrott ever had surgery, but he was dealing with an ankle injury that the Giants pretty much kept under wraps. So you have both of your tackles pretty much hobbled for most of the year. And now I think that they go into year two healthy, and they play a lot better. Of course, at center, Nick Gates, his second year as center, you should expect to see him improve. He spent 1 year at center. He got better as the year went on, so you would assume year two, he's an even better center now, Nick Gates. Of course, the problem is the guard positions, right? Our best offensive lineman last year was right guard Kevin Zeitler. Now he's no longer with the team. They cut him to save cap space. Okay, I think that was fine. We spent the money wisely, right? Left guard is Shane Lemieux or Will Hernandez. Right guard is Shane Lemieux or Will Hernandez. I'm assuming that they're going to duke it out in training camp and preseason, and then we're going to see who's going to start at which spot. I don't necessarily trust either one of those guys. I actually don't trust Shane Lemieux at all. I don't think that Shane Lemieux should be a starter in the NFL. I would actually say keep an eye on Zach Fulton to take one of those starting jobs if Shane Lemieux continues to struggle that badly in pass protection. He's athletic. He gets out there in the running game. He could be a good pulling guard. But in pass protection, he was so bad last year and was such a liability at times that it really makes me wonder if he can actually be a starter in the NFL. Hopefully he can, though. Again, these are all young guys. Second season for Shane Lemieux. Maybe he learned a thing or two in pass protection. Maybe he's better in year two and he puts it together as a good pass protector and good run blocker. That's something that you have to consider. Players improve as time goes on. Sometimes players get worse. Sometimes players stay the same. Sometimes players improve. A case of someone getting worse was Will Hernandez. Rookie season, really good. We're like, okay, he's going to be even better in year two. He was even worse, okay? And then he got even worse in year three. So hopefully he can rebound. It looks like he lost some weight. He's been spending a lot of time with Daniel Jones, building that chemistry. Hopefully he can rebound in is this 4 now? Yeah, year 4 for Will Hernandez. Hopefully he can rebound and become a competent starting offensive lineman again. I think there's a good chance he's able to pull that off. I think that, him playing alongside other players that are just getting better and this offensive line being young together and just building together, just think you're going to see improvement from the offensive line. I don't think it needs to be drastic improvement for the Giants to succeed. They were ranked last in pass protection last year. I think if they get that number to about, 18th, I think they're good. They were 18th in run blocking. If they can at least just get to about 15th in run blocking, 18th in pass protection, I think that really helps the Giants offense tremendously. Daniel Jones can't be sacked as many times as he was, can't be put into the dirt as many times as he was, but the offensive line doesn't need to be perfect when you've got this many playmakers around Daniel Jones, right? So just need to see improvement. Doesn't need to be drastic, but I want to see this offensive line improve. I understand they're all young players, so they should improve, but they should still struggle. But you need to see more improvement, more better play than bad play this year. Otherwise, the Giants' offense is likely to fall apart.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, another thing that we probably didn't know, or maybe you didn't know, Will Hernandez was injured last year. That's what Duke Manyweather, his coach, said, responded to my tweet saying that not only did he miss preseason, of course, due to COVID, not only did he contract COVID, but he actually was injured. So there's your left side of the line problems. Andrew Thomas and Will Hernandez both injured during the season. One of them contracts COVID. New coaches, new schematics, everything in between. I get why the Giants feel pretty good about their offensive line. I get it. I'm optimistic based on all the reasons that they are. And I've kind of been looking at this. I've been deciphering. I've been doing a lot of research trying to figure out why the hell do they have so much confidence in this unit that ranked 31st in pass blocking and basically below average in run blocking last year. Like, what the hell is the reason behind this? And it's because of the injuries and the lack of preseason and the lack of everything and experience. Guys, I don't know how else I can say, but I do feel more optimistic than most about this offensive line moving forward. So you can hold me to that. I hope you do, because, if they do turn out to be better, I've been preaching it for a while now. So let's move on to number 5, a retooled offensive coaching staff. This is a big one. This is the last factor that we think is going to play a major part, because, of course, Jason Garrett's play calling was the number one people refer to, aside from the offensive line, when they are considering, the fact that Daniel Jones could end up flopping this upcoming year, or this offense could end up flopping this upcoming year. It all relies on two things: the offensive line and the play calling. Can Jason Garrett get out of his own butt and not call a curl, not call a this, not call a that? We don't want Kenny Golladay being paid $70 million over 4 years to be running curl routes 24/7. So now I feel pretty good that we elevated Freddie Kitchens to a senior advisor role on offense. We hired Russ Callaway, who has a downfield-centric approach, a more Air Coryell system. And I think he's going to help devise some better route concepts and better, just overall plays to maximize the potential of our playmakers and maximize their capabilities in the open field and 50-50 balls and whatnot. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to see behind the scenes. Russ Callaway kind of making an impact there, but also Freddie Kitchens. I think that he loves to use his running backs. He loves to use tight ends, and I think we have two big tight ends in Evan Ingram and Kyle Rudolph, who can get it done in different ways. And I'd love to use two running back sets more often. I love to use Saquon and Devontae Booker at the same time, trying to create some confusion, maybe more heavy personnel up front, trying to run the ball effectively, but also maybe some play action, getting those running backs into space and getting them the ball through the air. So I'd love to get some more creativity. Look at Kansas City. I use them as a model kind of in terms of creativity and leading the way in modernizing offense in the NFL. And I really would love to see them take something out of their playbook and just get creative. Downfield approach, screens to Evan Ingram or Kyle Rudolph or Saquon Barkley, just getting more involved with their playmakers, but also getting them into space. Let your guys like Kadarius Toney and Saquon maximize that ability in space to create missed tackles, to break through guys and make big plays and chunk plays. That's what I'm looking for. I want them to be in space and utilizing that elite athleticism. So, Anthony, what do you think this retooled offensive coaching staff is going to bring to the Giants, and why is this such an important factor?
Yeah, I think this might even arguably be the most important factor, other than probably the addition of the playmakers. But the Giants did change their coaching staff quite a bit on the offensive side of the ball. It's now no longer just Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator. They did bring in a new offensive line coach. Got to keep that in mind. Robert Sale, who has offensive coordinator experience, in college. So I think that plays into the fact that he'll probably have conversations and discussions with Joe Judge and Jason Garrett week to week on how they want to install the game plan and what they want the offense to look like week to week with the schemes. So I think the offensive line coach now has input in that. Then I think, Russ Callaway, that was a pretty interesting signing. He's their quality control coach on offense. So he's their analytics guy. He says what's working, what's not, and then he really dives into that, gives that information to the rest of the coaching staff, gives that information to Jason Garrett and Joe Judge, and that they can use those analytics, that data, to really make this offense optimal, optimize it, take the plays that work, really keep the quality high. That's Russ Callaway's job now. Then I think the one really, really underrated factor that I'm really obsessed with, and I really like this move that the Giants made here, they promoted Freddie Kitchens to senior offensive assistant. So now he's no longer just a tight ends coach helping the tight ends work on their drops and whatnot. He's now actually going to be helping with the playbook and helping construct the playbook, adding parts of his scheme from Cleveland, I would assume, into the Giants' new playbook. Because clearly the Giants were lacking a lot in this playbook last year. The running game got pretty stale sometimes, and the passing concepts we all know were very stale most of the time. A lot of just hitches and curls and nothing really impressive going down the field vertical, right? So with a more vertical offense, we saw that from Freddie Kitchens when he got to start as offensive coordinator against the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, Jason Garrett contracted COVID. He missed a week. Freddie Kitchens steps in. Giants offense is just more vertical. They're just opening up the deep passing game. They have more players going down the field, opening up the intermediate passing game, trying to simplify things for a backup quarterback in Colt McCoy. Now, I think that as senior offensive assistant, you're going to see that be implemented into the Giants scheme regularly. You're going to see more vertical route concepts. You're going to see more play actions, more bootlegs, because when you think back to Baker Mayfield's rookie season and his second season, there was a lot of play action and a lot of bootlegs for the Cleveland Browns offense those seasons, and I think you're going to see that implemented because it really does help mask offensive line deficiencies when you roll a quarterback out, when you use play action. It masks offensive line deficiencies, and I think that Freddie Kitchens is going to implement that and kind of be our little secret X factor on offense this year in terms of the offensive scheme. I think the scheme gets a lot better this year. Giants fans had a lot of negative things to say about the offensive scheme. They had a lot of criticisms. I think most of those get taken out of the game and implemented with new praises and improvements in the offensive scheme by Freddie Kitchens. I think that was a huge move that the Giants made that didn't get talked about enough, but I really like that move. Hats off to Joe Judge. Joe Judge doesn't do anything wrong in my eyes anyway, but that was a really good move. Loved that one right there. I think Freddie Kitchens is going to have a huge impact on the Giants offense.
Yeah, and some continuity in terms of Rob Sale, the new offensive line coach too, is going to be tremendous. And just, we know what happened with Mark Colombo. They moved on from him after half the year. David Guglielmo comes in for half the year. Just a lot of turnover, a lot of just so many factors to factor into why the offensive line failed tremendously in 2020. But I'm excited. I know that Kenny Golladay said he loves the vision of this offense. I don't think he would have said that if they would have guaranteed him 75% of his reps would have been curls or hooks. I think that, he loves what they're putting together. They want to go more downfield. They want to give him those 50-50. They want him to use his strengths. Players love to use their strengths. They love to use their strengths. So obviously they told him, we want to push the ball downfield. We want to get you that ball in space. We want to get you that opportunity to, outmuscle guys in coverage. So I like that. I love that statement from Kenny specifically. But now moving forward, my friends, we have a lot to talk about over the next couple of weeks. Mini camp starting up soon. I know the rookies are reporting this upcoming week, I think. So this is going to be really exciting stuff. Hopefully we'll keep in touch with Rodarius, see how he's doing. Make sure that all these rookies are getting the right practice and training done so that they can have an impact in year one, my friends. So thank you so much for tuning to Fireside Giants. Hope you had a fantastic Mother's Day and spent time with loved ones as always. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, my friends. Hit that like button too. Smash that like button for us on YouTube. It helps us tremendously get this video out, and all the support that you guys have offered, the kind words, does not go past us. We appreciate all of it. Thank you. I see all of it. It means a ton to both Anthony and I. Make sure to turn on notifications on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube as always, and have a fantastic rest of your weekend and a fantastic week ahead.